Hey, what's up, guys? So I've been spending a lot more time on Twitter lately, especially trying to grow the channel and stuff. Which reminds me, if you can, please like and subscribe down below. But I was following President Trump, and I seen him tweet about something that about the Republicans, and it had something to do with something called the Lincoln Project. Well, I'm not familiar, so I figured we could take a look at it together. You're watching Inspiring Inquiry. All right. So first, we're going to go ahead and take a look at Donald Trump's Twitter. All right. So this is him referring to the testing. It's bigger than better than anywhere. Let's see. Trump, Sammy's Mexican restaurant to President, real Donald Trump. Latinos are going to vote for you because you're doing a very good job. Oh, well, I'm glad these two Latinos came out to say how great a job he was doing, and they must just represent all of Latinos all over, right? So let's see. What else have we got? I was thrilled to be back in the great state of Arizona. I'm just going to skip down to the tweet in which I'm talking about. Oh, that was a beauty, wasn't it? All right there. A group of rhino Republicans, that means Republican in name only, which is a pejorative, a slur used against Republicans that he doesn't agree with, which is also a no true Scotsman fallacy, or a purity fallacy, or an appeal to purity. Let's see, and we can talk about that later. A group of rhino Republicans who failed badly 12 years ago, then again 8 years ago, and then got badly beaten, in caps this time, he likes that word, by me, a political first-timer, 4 years ago, have copied, no imagination, I guess he's referring to what they've copied, the concept of an ad from Ronald Reagan, Mourning in America, doing everything possible to get even for all of their many failures. You see, these loser types don't care about 252 new federal judges, 2 Supreme Court justices, a rebuilt military, a protected Second Amendment, biggest tax ever tax and regulations cuts, and more. This is him just praising himself. I mean, he always does. You know, this is what someone does when they can't admit when they've done something wrong. They just want to go ahead and switch right over to all the things that they did right. Let's see. All right. Oh, because they don't know how to win, and their so-called Lincoln Project is a disgrace to Honest Abe. I don't know what Kellyanne Conway, did to her deranged loser husband Moonface. The orange man calls somebody Moonface. But it must have been really bad. John Weaver, big loss. Okay, so we're going to skip past this. What we're going to take a look at today is what is the Lincoln Project, because I have no idea what it is, so we're going to go ahead and find out together. All right, so I've already pulled it up right here. We go over the Lincoln Project, dedicated to Americans protecting democracy. The Lincoln Project is holding accountable those who would violate their oaths to the Constitution and would put others before Americans. We have seen the best and worst of American politics. We understand that action must be taken now to protect the institutions that have made the United States the greatest nation the world has ever known. What is their mission? Our mission: defeat President Trump and Trumpism at the ballot box. We do not undertake this task lightly, nor from ideological preference. Our many policy differences with the National Democrats remain. However, the priority for all patriotic Americans must be a shared fidelity to the Constitution and a commitment to defeat those candidates who have abandoned their constitutional oaths, regardless of party. Electing Democrats who support the Constitution over Republicans who do not is a worthy effort. So these are basically people saying that they're not going to be tied solely to their party. They may be Republicans, but they're not going to be only ever vote for Republicans. They're going to vote for those who has ideas that are best in line with their ideology. Our inspiration. President Abraham Lincoln led the United States through its bloodiest, most divisive, and most decisive period in our history. He fought not only because he wanted to, but because he knew that the dual goals of preserving the Union and the end of slavery would be achieved only through armed conflict. Lincoln always kept the enormous human cost of the struggle in the front of his mind. At Gettysburg, he implored us not to forget those that had given their last full measure of devotion to preserving the American experiment. As it became clear that the Union would be victorious, Lincoln's thoughts turned to how the nation would bind up its wounds and move forward together. Today, we find ourselves divided again. Sectionalism in the country and factionalism in the government has led to an ever uglier examples of how our political system is failing. basically pitting people against people, that us versus them mentality, the tribalism that we all have to watch out for. It's where we feel like we're a part of a group, so we feel an allegiance to that group, and we look at others in other groups as exactly that, others, them, they, dividing our country. Let's see. President Trump and those who sign onto Trumpism are a clear and present danger to the Constitution and our republic. Only defeating so polarizing a character as Trump will allow the country to heal its political and psychological wounds and allow for a new, better path forward for all Americans. All right, so basically what they're saying is, and now this is what they're saying, I don't know if I agree with them. I'm not a Republican. I actually wouldn't label myself as anything. I like to talk about the specific policies and ideas that someone is espousing and go based on whether or not I agree with that. I don't really feel an allegiance to any party. All right, so the advisors are George Conaway. George Conaway is a lawyer in New York City and founding member of the Checks and Balances, a group of conservative and libertarian lawyers organized to defend the rule of law. Reed Gallen is an independent political strategist. He left the Republican Party in 2016 and has spent the last 3 years dedicated to the political reform movement. I wonder why. Creating a better system for all voters. Jennifer Horn is a communication strategist and former chairman in the New Hampshire Republican Party. She was the first Republican woman in New Hampshire nominated for federal office. Mike Madrid is a Republican strategist and former political director of the California Republican Party. He serves as a senior advisor to the California Latino Economic Institute. Steve Schmidt is a national political strategist. He previously worked for President George W. Bush, Senator John McCain, and Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. Ron Steslow is a brand and marketing strategist and independent political consultant. Since leaving the Grand Old Party in 2016, he has worked to put voters first in our political system. And we also have John Weaver. John is a national political strategist. He worked for President George H.W. Bush, Senator John McCain, and Ohio Governor John Kasich. Rick Wilson. Rick is a longtime Republican media consultant and author of the New York Times bestselling book, Everything Trump Touches Dies. So we got a bunch of Trump haters here. Not faulting them. Next fall's elections will be about much more than just who controls one house of Congress or the White House. Next November, the American people will decide the path for America's future. All of the prosperity and freedom we've come to take for granted depends on our public servants serving the Constitution first, last, and always. Today, one party has abdicated that responsibility and instead pledged their loyalty to one person. So, what President Trump was referring to was this ad in his tweet. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this ad and see what it has to say. So, the Lincoln Project releases new ad, Mourning in America. So the Ronald Reagan ad campaign was Mourning in America, like Good Morning in America. This one that they're doing is Mourning in America, as in mourning the loss of a loved one. So let's go ahead and watch this Lincoln Project ad and see what it has to say. Let's see what these guys think.
There's mourning in America. Today, more than 60,000 Americans have died from a deadly virus Donald Trump ignored. With the economy in shambles, more than 26 million Americans are out of work, the worst economy in decades. Trump bailed out Wall Street, but not Main Street. This afternoon, millions of Americans will apply for unemployment, and with their savings run out, many are giving up hope. Millions worry that a loved one won't survive COVID-19. There's mourning in America, and under the leadership of Donald Trump, our country is weaker and sicker and poorer. And now, Americans are asking, if we have another 4 years like this, will there even be an America?
Paid for by the Lincoln Project, which is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
Okay, so, I mean, it's a little hyperbolic there. Will there even be an America? Honestly, we don't know. With everything that's going on with the pandemic, with the economy, who knows what it's going to look like here in the next 4 years. I think it is a little hyperbolic to say that there could not even be America. I don't think it'll go that far, but I mean, what do I know? So let's go ahead and read this, what they have down there. In 1984, Ronald Reagan's campaign launched an iconic and memorable political ad called Mourning in America. Mourning, the word morning as in like good morning, highlighted the positive impact of a first-term Reagan presidency and presented an optimistic vision of an America that was prosperous and peaceful. Under Donald Trump, we instead face mourning in America. Let's see. The Lincoln Project video highlights the effects of President Trump's failure as a president and how he has left the nation weaker, sicker, and teetering on the verge of a Great Depression. In a time of deep suffering and loss, Donald Trump continues with his failed leadership and in his inability to put the country before himself, said Jennifer Horn, co-founder of the Lincoln Project. Another end quote. Americans are not only mourning the loss of each other, they are mourning the loss of their routine, families, and livelihoods. Trump and his administration failed at every turn to take the response of COVID-19 seriously until it was too late. Now we face a collective mourning for the America we once knew, end quote. President Trump waited until March 13th, the last day that I worked, 2020, to declare a national emergency in response to the coronavirus threat. On March 15th, he declared that the virus was something we have tremendous control over. Well, that looks like it's it. So it seems like it's a group of Republicans who are banding together to show that they are going to stick to their ideals, to stick to the ideas of the Constitution and conservatism. Not going to show blind allegiance to the Republican Party just because Trump is at the head of it, just because it is the Republican Party. They're going to stick to their guns. They're going to stick to their ideals. They have ideals of conservatism, ideas of upholding the Constitution, and staying true to that, not just one person's agenda, not just one person's goal. They're saying that there's a bigger ideology here, a bigger worldview that they're trying to appeal to. So I just want to say thank you guys for taking a look over at this with me. I'm going to look at it a little bit further, but I just kind of wanted to get my feet wet in what's going on. If I find out anything a little bit more interesting, I'll go ahead and upload a video about it. Thanks for watching.